from left field. I don't think I came from left field. I think I came from about 2 miles outside the ballpark. While money cannot solve all of the city's problems, it's hard to see any real improvement until there is a basic reallocation of revenue between the federal government and state and local governments. For that reason, I entered this campaign to focus attention on H.R. 11044, which would provide minimum national standards for welfare payments in every state, and which would also have the federal government reimburse the states for 90% of what they spend for welfare, just as it does for what they spend for interstate highways. The bill would shift about $4 billion a year from state and local budgets to the federal budget. It would bring about $1 billion of additional revenue to New York State, and about half of that, or almost half of that, would be passed along to New York City. I think this idea is a bit unusual in that it appeals to welfare recipients at one end of the spectrum and taxpayer groups at the other. But I happen to think there are a few other ideas on which people from all parts of the city and all walks of life can agree, and I'd like to take advantage of this platform to mention one of them. It's clear that the only way to bring about a dramatic reduction in crime is a substantial increase in the number of men on patrol, on foot, on the streets. This was demonstrated in the subways a few years ago when they began the practice of assigning a patrolman to every single train that runs at night. Subway crime went down and stayed down. The constant and highly visible presence of uniformed men on patrol is the only real deterrent to crime. But there isn't enough money in the world to hire enough policemen to have a cop on every block in the city at all hours of the day and night. The answer, it seems to me, is obvious. We have to recruit volunteers to patrol the streets and building lobbies and elevators in their own neighborhoods. It's been demonstrated time and time again that people are not apathetic, that they are willing to volunteer, they are willing to help, provided they are not alone. In World War II, many New Yorkers spent lonely hours shivering on rooftops, scanning the skies for enemy aircraft that fortunately never came. And they will respond to today's crisis, too, if a sensible, organized arrangement is offered. I suggest that men be asked. Therefore, I am now withdrawing as a candidate. As the New York Times pointed out on Tuesday, a man who is at once innovative and practical.
Thank you, John. And just want to say that very grateful to John for his support, and somehow the speech sounded like a valedictory, which it shouldn't be at all, because I want you to know that we have agreed that we are going to work together, and we're going to work together in a meaningful way. We will be spelling out in detail, probably by next week, the plan that he has outlined for a volunteer civilian patrol. Secondly, I certainly agree with him, as you know, with respect to the issue of welfare, and I have spelled out how the people of the city of New York are in fact paying over $1.4 billion in taxes into the city treasury, which they shouldn't be paying. They're only paying it because the federal government refuses to accept its responsibility. But in addition, and perhaps more importantly, we have had no discussion about that. Fortunately, Mr. Seder is a man of independent means. There's no,
came to the conclusion.
Several words suggest you may not legally be able to withdraw without a court order. What are your plans in that light?
As I understand the situation, challenges were filed last night just before the midnight deadline. We do not intend to resist those challenges. Resisting them would involve some harassment and perhaps loss of days' pay to people who signed our petitions in good faith. We don't want to see that kind of thing happen. It is true, as I understand it, that a technical deadline for withdrawal has passed, but we think we can effectively withdraw by not contesting these challenges. Now, I might say that if nothing else works, official punishment.
Where the people are living in poverty, and then job placement where the jobs may be available. I have detailed this in the course of the campaign and have discussed it with Mr. Seder, and we will be working to spell out in greater details the concepts that we both agree upon. Well, I think that we have plenty of time to decide that matter. We have a primary on June 17th. The election is not until November, and we have a lot of time to see what the programs are going to be and what specific steps are going to be taken by the candidates. I think that in this primary I've been very specific in my point of view. I've spelled out in writing exactly what I feel is necessary. I don't expect the other candidates to commit themselves to my principles immediately, but I think they should have enough time after the primary to study them and let me know what they feel. And then I will decide. Interested in anyone who would consider accepting Conservative Party and Democratic Party support. I haven't made any deals or attempted to make any deals with Charlie Buckley's whole organization in the past 3.5 years, and I wouldn't in the future. And I am not interested in someone whose attitude is that we should maintain things as they are or make no progress in important fields such as the question of labor unions and other matters. So that I don't want to put anybody in a corner either, but at least they should have a chance to read what I have said and understand that I mean it.
And I know chairman of the boards and presidents of a lot of big companies. I've watched them and I've worked with them and I've sized them up, and I met some strong, great guys, and I met some real fumblers. And I'll tell you that I think there are men in the ghettos of this city that I could name who could do a better job as mayor of this city or as president of General Motors than, particularly in the second case, than the guy that has that job now. That's how strongly I feel about it. And they haven't had a chance because of discrimination. It's as simple as that. So if I can make a little contribution in that area, having come from the other world, I'm going to try to do it.
I got 6 kids and I'm having a hard time feeding.
He's an executive with the New York Telephone Company, and any business that could get him for $40,000 would be getting a steal.
If you know anybody that wants to pay me $40,000, I'm open to suggestions. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I was going to ask you, how come you're not working for Nixon? But good luck to you.
Yesterday, after about 48 hours of sweating over it, that it didn't make any sense for us to stay in. After we decided that, we went on to the next question, which was how to withdraw and whom to support. And that was decided yesterday afternoon before we talked to Mr. Badillo. There were no commitments asked and none given. Now, since that terminates my short and happy career as a public figure, you may not be interested in anything else I have to say. But if you are, let me say that I've had an unusual opportunity in the last 10 days to observe, talk to, and appraise the other 5 candidates who remain in the Democratic race. I've seen them at first hand. I have learned their views. And of the 3 major candidates, I believe that Herman Badillo is the best example of the kind of person we need for the office of mayor of the city of New York. He has the best chance of furthering the ideas that I have spoken out for and of implementing them. I don't happen to believe it is inevitable that this city tear itself apart. Men and women of goodwill who constitute the vast majority of every group, every borough, every neighborhood can live together and work together in peace and harmony.
John is going to be working with me in the weeks to come in developing the visible symbol of the new coalition about which we have been speaking. We are going to be moving into the slum areas of the city, and we are going to demonstrate how the liberal community and the black community and the Puerto Rican community can work to ensure that the people of this city will be able to have the kind of support that is necessary in the slum areas to show that we will be working together before the election and after the election. And John, I want to welcome you aboard and pin this button on you. Thank you.